Off the beaded path, your beading starts here. Shop it off the beaded path, beadstore.com. Bring your vision near.
Hey there, my name is Kelly Dell with Off the Beaded Path Beadstore.com. This video is part 2 of our pointed oval 3D Shapes of Summer series. Now, if you missed part 1 where I taught how to make the pointed ovals, we're going to put a link in that video description box right below this video so you can go back and watch it, because if you don't know how to do those pointed ovals, you will be lost in this part 2 videos. So today, I'm going to be showing you how to encase your Rivoli, how to connect the points to the Rivoli, and then how to make the bell so that it all goes together to make this beautiful Carolina fall leaf. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, before you get started with your Rivoli encasement, go ahead and make sure that you have all 5 of your pointed ovals finished and complete. That will just make the process go quicker. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to part 1 of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and set these to the side, and I have threaded a needle with 2 yards of thread, and I have threaded on 36 of my beads. So I'm using the same A and B and C from Monday's video. And you can see here I have on those 36 beads. So now I'm going to take these beads and I'm going to bring them down. And I'm going to leave a long enough tail that I can go back and stitch it through. And I'm going to pass through all 36 beads again. So you'll go through as many as you can. Hold on to that tail thread and pull that through. And then finish going through your beads. And then it does not matter which bead you exit. So I'm just going to pass through a few more beads there, so that now I have that ring of beads I need to start the encasement. Now, it's going to be helpful as you start this to find something that is about the diameter of your circle. So I've got my Wildfire cord cutter here, and it's a perfect size. So I'm just going to kind of use this as my dowel. So let me grab some of my bee beads here. So I'm going to pick up a bee, skip a bee, and pass through a bee. You see how those 2 beads will lay side by side. That's what we want. Thread on a bee, skip a bee, go through a bee. Thread on a bee, skip a bee, go through a bee. And I'm going to do this all the way around. Now, once you've gone all the way around and you get to where you started, we still have this one last bead to add. So I pick up a bead, I skip a bee, and I go through a bee. So I'm going to be passing through this bee. Now, I can go ahead and I can do my step up at the same time. So this means I can go through both of these beads. So that way I finish the row and I do my step up. If you don't do this correctly, then it will not work out. So you have to finish the row and do the step up. Just like that. Now you can slide this off if you need to slide it off, because we're going to be adding our rows of 15s now. So from where I'm coming out, I'm going to thread on 1 size 15 seed bead. I call this C in the pattern. And I'm going to pass it through the next B that is sticking up. So it's going to look like that. Now I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to pick up a 15, which is a C, and I'm going to go through that next B, and I'm going to do this all the way around. So as you can see, I've gone all the way around with those 15s, and I've got back here to the beginning. So I pick up my 15, which is my C bead. I go through the last B of the row, and then I'm going to step up by going through the first C that I added in the round, which is going to be that one. And once you go through that and you pull it, this is what it should look like. Now I'm going to work one more row with my 15. So I pick up a 15 and I pass through the next 15 sticking up, or that next C. Now as I work this row, I'm going to kind of give the beadwork a little gentle tug each time I pull through it, so that way it will start to cup towards the center. I want this to be the top of the piece, so it's got to hold my Rivoli in place. So I'm just going to continue to work around adding in these 15s. So I've gone all the way around, but I still have one bead left to add. So I pick up my 15 and I pass through the last 15 of the row, which is going to be this 15 right here. Now I'm not doing a step up at the same time, because I'm done now with the front side of the piece, and I went ahead and I got rid of my short tail thread so I could be done with that as well. So from where I'm coming out, I'm just going to kind of do just a little bit of a straight diagonal through my B beads to come to the back side, and I'm going to be exiting an up delica here along the back side. So we're going to be using our size 15s again. So we just pick up a 15 and go through the next delica, or our B bead. You can see what I'm doing here. And if you want to, at this point, you can go ahead and put your Rivoli in. So you want to put it face down so that you're seeing the silver. And when you put that in, if you look at it here in the encasement, this is what it should look like. It should be perfectly fitted into that encasement. If it's not, then you have pulled the thread entirely too tight and you need to take it out and redo it, because it's not going to work out. It should fit snug, and you should see that row of delicas just like you see there on the piece. You should see that on the piece. It should fit very nice in there. So I'm going to continue putting in this row of 15s. So as you can see, I've gone all the way around. I just have one more bead here left to add. So I pick up that 15 and I pass through the last B of the row, which is going to be this B right here. And then I'm going to step up by going through that first 15 that I threaded on. So I'm going through 2 beads at one time and pull this through. So this is what it should look like at this point. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this round one more time. So one more row of size 15 seed beads. So we just pick up a 15 and we pass through the next 15. And just like I did on the top, each time I go through one, I'm going to give it a little tug so that it starts to hug down on the Rivoli. So I've gone all the way around and I have added that second row of 15s, and I have gone ahead and I've stepped up. You'll see there where I am coming out of one of the up 15s. Now, we are going to cover up the back a little bit. The back is going to touch the skin or your shirt or whatever. So we want to make it to where the skin won't actually touch the foil part. So this is why we're going to make little arms or little spikes or appendages. I don't know what you want to call them, but we're going to add these little things here. So that way it will start to cover up and protect the back. And so nothing can actually touch that foil. So even if you put your finger there, you're still not going to touch the foil. You're going to be touching the beads here. So this is what we're going to work on. So to do that, from you coming out of a 15 that is sticking up, you're going to thread on 4 15s. Now drop these down And once you get them dropped down, you are going to skip the fourth 15 and you are going to pass down through the other 3 15s. And go ahead and pull that. And what I do is I kind of take my thumbnail and hold that fourth 15 and then pull the thread straight down so that it meets the base 15, the one that you're coming out of there. Then go through that 15 again. So see, my thread was originally coming out here. So if I hold this here, you can even see it's kind of off-centered because my thread was originally coming out on this right side. So now I'm going to go back through that same bead so that when I do, now that will center that little spike on the top or above that same 15. Now I'm going to continue through a lower 15 and an upper 15. And then a lower 15 and an upper 15. So in other words, we're not going through, we're not going to do these spikes, appendages, arms, whatever, over every up bead. We are going to only do this over every other one. So see, we're going to skip an up bead and now we're going to do one here. And we're going to continue to do this around until you have done all the way around and back to the beginning here. Once you finish adding all of your little arms or spikes or whatever, you want to pass through the beads to exit a point bead of any of the spikes. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass up through to exit the little point of the first point that I did. And if you got it nice and tight, you may have a little bit of a harder time getting it through, but just kind of wiggle the needle. There we go. And I'm coming out of the point bead there. Now, you're going to take your needle and pass through the point beads of all of the little points. And the great thing about it is there's no like right or wrong way depending on how the little hole is because it can move. So that's the great thing. You're just going to make sure that you get through the points. And don't pull them tight yet or you'll have a hard time seeing and making sure you don't miss any of the little points. And then once I've gone through all of them, I'll go through the first one again and pull it so that now it pulls together just like this. So now that you've gone all the way around, you'll want to make sure to go through those beads one more time so that you can just reinforce and pull it together. Just like this. And then once you've gone all the way through, if you hold your piece to the side here, you will see that you have a row of a single delica and then a double, a single, a double, a single, a double. So stitch through the beads to come out of any single delica row here on the side of your encasement. Now we're ready to connect our largest oval to our encasement. So I have a needle threaded onto that largest oval, and you'll notice that the needle and thread are coming out of that point bead. Now it does not matter where I start here on the encasement, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it onto the side, and you can see here we have a row, a single row of B, and then a double row. And then a single row, double row, single row, double row. So basically, we are going to almost stitch in the ditch right here at this row of 2 beads. So I'm going to take the needle because I want that point to lay right in here. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass it through that single bee bead. Just like this. And when you pull it, you'll see there how that is going to sit into that spot. Now I need to turn around so that I can be coming out on the other side. So what I need to do is to pass through the lower bee bead there of the next set of 2 right after that single one I'm coming out of. Then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to pass through the bead right above where the thread's exiting. And make sure you kind of tug it a little bit. Then I'm going to go through that single bee bead that I started with. And this is what you're going to have to constantly watch that you don't do, or it doesn't happen, that we don't get the thread around that oval. We don't want it to wrap around because you'll see a thread. Okay, now I'm going to pass through that point of the oval. Through the next single bee bead there on the encasement. And then I'm going to turn around again. So I'm going to pass through the lower bead of the set of 2 right after that single bead I'm coming out of. And then through that top bead. So now, technically, this is connected. And you'll see there, it's between that bead that it needs to be under. But you'll want to go through and reinforce this one more time. So I would go through again and just do one more reinforcement, and then you can get rid of this thread. Now that we have the center attached, we're going to be putting a medium one on each side. So if you look at your encasement, we have it attached right here at this center point. So I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3. And right here, this third one is where I'm going to connect the next oval. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass it through that single bee bead there at that third set of 2. So I'm going to get in there first. There we go. Okay. So again, let me get my little pointer here. Let me find it. Here we go. Okay. So again, this set of 2 right here is where the big one is connected. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3. And I'm going through that single bead right there next to that set of 2. So that when I pull it, now you can see where that is going to be placed, just like this. So we're going to attach it just like we did here. And you'll want to be careful because of the fact that you've already now been through this little set of 2 beads there. You've already been through that a couple of times. So be careful that you don't bust anything as you work. But we're going to do that little turn around. Making sure we don't get caught in the oval anywhere. Okay. Now I'm going to pass through the point A of the oval. And then I'm going to go through the single bee bead there next to it, so that now technically it's attached. But now we want to go through and we're going to turn around and reinforce this, but do not tie this thread off. We are going to do some tacking here, and then we're going to put a crystal down here. So just reinforce it, but don't tie this off. So now that I have this reinforced, you can see here where I have stitched down to exit the medium oval. So basically what I want to do is I want to hold this straight, and I want to press these two ovals together so that I can see where they would meet together. And I can see that it's going to be right here, right there where I'm exiting. So now I need to tack these two in place. So to do that, from where I'm exiting, I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass up through a bee bead on the large oval. Pull this through. Here we go. And now I'm going to go down through the bee bead on the medium oval that I was just coming out of, so that it tacks that together. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reinforce this one more time. And you'll notice it works really well if you will use a color that matches your beads that you're using. So that way you don't have to use, be worried about seeing that thread where it's tacked. So I'm using, I think this is the apricot KO thread is what I'm using for this. So that way it doesn't stick out from just tacking that piece in place. Okay, so now those two are tacked together there. But you want to not only tack it, but we want to put a crystal or something here to kind of hold these longer bottom pieces together. So that way this doesn't, really flip or do anything kind of crazy. So I'm going to pass down through the beadwork to a point where I can kind of get a 3mm bead in that little section. You'll see there. Let me pull it back like this. So you can see on this one, you can see here where I tacked it. And then from there, I came down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beads, I believe. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I came down 7 beads to tack it with the crystal. But you're going to kind of have to look and see what is going to work best for you. So I'm going to stitch down. Let's see if I go down 7 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See, that's going to be on this one where I'm tacking it. 7 beads down is going to be further down here, and that's not going to be right. So I'm just going to take it down and maybe go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm either going to go 5 or 6. I'm just going to kind of come down here and put the 3mm in and see what will fit. So give me just 1 second. Okay, so I passed down through 1, 2, 3, 4 beads from where I tacked it together. And how I kind of decided if it was going to be a good spot or not was I took my little 3mm Bicone and I kind of put it in place, and it will fit there nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that 3mm in place there. So I'm coming out of this bee bead on the medium. So now I'm going to come to the bee bead kind of right across from it on the large, and I'm going to pull it and see if it goes in place. And yes, it goes in place really nicely right there. So now I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass back through that crystal. And once I do that, I'm going to go back down through that same bee bead there. so that now that crystal is centered. And that looks really good. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reinforce that a couple of times and get rid of this thread. And then over here, I'm going to do the same thing to attach another medium piece. So I'm going to come over from where I'm at. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3. So I'll be attaching that medium right here. So again, count in the center, sets of 2, 1, 2, 3, and you'll be attaching it right there. You can see here, I now have the other medium one connected, and you can also see there where I have the crystals as close to the same spot as I possibly can. Now I'm going to do the same thing and do the same spacing, and I'm going to attach the small pieces on each side as well. And I'm going to go ahead and again attach the crystals and everything. So once you have all 5 pieces connected, then we have one more step to make it a little bit more stable. Because right now you can do this and you can see that it doesn't move, but we want to make it a little bit more stable at the connections. So here at the point of the smallest one that here on the end, I have stitched through to where I'm coming out of not the point A, but the one right next to it. So I'm coming out towards the center of the piece. And what we want to do now that we're coming out of that little spot right there, you're going to pick up a little 3mm bicone and you're going to come across to the A there right across from it, and you're going to pass through that A. Now there will be just a tiny little smidge of thread on each side showing, and that's okay. If there's a huge amount, then I would put a little 15 next to each one. But the thing is, we're going to do this on both sides. So if you put a little 15 on each side, if you don't need it, it's going to kind of bubble up and not look great. So I'm going to pass through the next point A. And I noticed once I got everything done and I was getting ready to start the step, I noticed that I must have had a thread caught around a bead and it came loose right there. So the good thing is, this is how I'm going to fix it. I'm going to cover that up. So I'm going to pass through the next A so that I'm coming out in that correct spot there. Now I'm going to pick up a 3mm and come up through the A right across from where my thread is coming out. Okay, and then I'm going to pass through the point in this, and then I'm going to do this twice more. Now, once you've gone across and you've put your crystals in, you are going to simply flip around to the back side, and you're going to weave in, and we're going to put crystals on the back just like we did here on the front. Once you get those crystals put on the back, you should feel this being very firm and it should be a lot more stable. So I've gone ahead now and I have threaded my needle with the string that I left on that Rivoli encasement. You know, I never got rid of that. So what I need to do is, if you look exactly opposite from where you put on that middle large oval, you'll come up here to the top and you'll notice that centered there is a row of 2 beads. So we want to exit a single bead right before that 2 bead row, because we're going to do a little bit of a stitch and a ditch to help us get started with peyote stitch. So I'm going to thread on 1 B bead and I'm going to come across and I'm going to pass through that single bead there. So I am skipping that little section and going right across to that bead there. Now you can see when I do that, that puts my bead right there in the center. So now I'm ready to work an odd count peyote. So I'm going to come back towards the other side, and I'm going to thread on one bee, and I'm going to pass through the bee that I just added. So I'm going to put my fingers there to keep it tight so that when I pull the thread, that is what I should have. Now, we want to pass through the single bee bead that we had there to start with, that we started that whole little step with. And we're almost making a figure 8 because now we're going to pick up another bee bead, and we are going to pass through the one in the middle and the one here below. So I'm going to go through the middle bee bead there, and then the one below. So now that gives me 3 good anchors there to start my peyote. So I come through the bead here at right above where my thread is exiting. And I'm going to put my fingers there to keep it tight. Now we pick up one bead and pass through the next bead there. Pick up one bead, and we're making a figure 8. So I'm going to pass through 2 beads, so the center bead and the one right after it. Put my fingers there to hold it in place. Now I'm going to pick up a bee bead, and I'm going to pass through the center and then the one kind of right below it diagonally. And I always put my fingers there just to hold it tight. And then I go through the bead right above it. And so right now it's just going to be a repetitive thing of one row, you go through, just pick up a bee and go through one. And now it's a little bit of a figure 8. So we pick a bee up, we go through 2 bees. Pick a bee up and go through 2 bees, kind of at a diagonal, just like this. And then we go through the bee right above where the thread is exiting. Now, there we go. We want to continue to do this until you get the bell the size you want it. Now, it's going to depend on what you're going to, make your necklace to go on as to what size you need your bell to be. So if you're not sure what you're going to put on it yet, don't complete the bell portion of it. But if you kind of already have a good idea of what you're going to do, then you can complete that bell length. Once you have the bell to the length that you want, you can see here that I finished off with the 2 beads like they are shown here. Now, it does not matter if I fold this to the front or I fold this to the back. I'm just going to go ahead and fold it to the back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it here to the first row of beads that I added, which is going to be this row of beads right here. So I'm coming out of this end bead here towards the center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through that first center bead that I added right there on the base. And then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass through the bead here on the end so that that technically connects that middle part right there. But you'll notice we still need to connect it on each side. So to do that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass through the bead here kind of right below it. So that way we get that zip there. And then I'm just going to continue through that middle bead. And then I'm going to come here on the end. And now I'm going to pass through the bead right there next to it. So then that will actually zip now. You see I've got it connected there and I have connect on that side. So we're going to reinforce this a couple of times and then we're going to finish off this thread. Now that you have your pendant complete, let's talk about a couple of really great necklace options that you have. The first option that I did, now of course you can do anything you want, but the first one that I did here was a herringbone. I did 2 size 11 Miyuki Seed Beads and then 2 of the Delicas from my mix, and that was the base row, so that just makes up almost like a double-sided necklace. And then I looped it through and I just tacked it there with a little 3mm bicone, and I tacked it on the front and the back because I just wanted to give it a little bit of a different look. You'll notice here I actually did not do the bell, so I took the bell off and I did a St. Petersburg chain. So you can see how, although they look the exact same thing, the necklace version or option that you pick really changes the look of it. So friends, I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this Carolina Fall Leaf Pendant. It's a fun project, and I mean, you can see there how using mixes really turns this into a very beautiful, beautiful pendant. So I do have kits available on my website for both color choices that you see here, and I have a step-by-step pattern tutorial that goes along with it as well, and both of those can be found at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Thanks so much for watching, and come back next time where we are going to learn another 3D shapes for our Shapes of Summer series.
Off the beaded path, your beading starts here. Shop at Off the Beaded Path Bead Store.com. Bring your vision near. Off